try to pretend for a moment that myself or my fellow man has dignity, I am like always thwarted at the last second by some new piece of data.
Yeah, well, I hope this movie tonight brought you renewed hope. Helped you renew your hope in your fellow man.
Ooh. You know what does? That crisp bite of the first sip from a new can of Coke Zero. Oh my God.
I thought they changed the recipe.
They did, but I still like it.
Oh,
that's what's so fucked up. I still like it. Actually, I tasted an older can. You know,
Yeah.
They had one in the liquor store. I just bought a loose can. It was one of the black cans.
Yeah.
The now vintage flavor
Whoa.
of Coke Zero as of a couple months ago. And I'm not going to lie, they totally got me hooked on the new formula. It's better than the old one. I liked it, of course, but it was just like, it tasted different.
Yeah.
Like when it was first rolling out the new one, I couldn't really tell the difference. But like when I tasted the old can, I was like, this is definitely different.
I think they did that with sugar-free Red Bull too. Definitely tastes a little different, but
they probably found out some sort of like carcinogenic like data on it, and they just had to like whip out a new recipe and like reframe it. That's my theory.
Yeah, because that's like the only soda I drank.
What, Red Bull?
Sugar-free Red Bull. Other than this, whatever this is, Waterloo, but that doesn't really count, does it?
That's not soda. That's seltzer.
Yeah, so they changed that. They also claim that Nelson Mandela did not die in prison anymore. And
what?
Yeah, we're getting Mandela affected.
Yeah.
And what's the other one? The Berenstain Bears?
Berenstain Bears, of course.
Yeah. It's happening all around. Joe Biden won the election.
That man is a walking Mandela effect.
Osama
Every
Joe
day
Biden.
it's like he talks different, he acts different, he like has different mannerisms. Like, what the fuck is his problem?
They're patching the it's like video games nowadays
Yeah.
where you roll out the game, it doesn't really work day one, but a couple weeks in you'll have the patch and it'll work fine, and then they'll give you the DLC and the game will be great.
That's so
like,
true. Biden was the first like Steam president. He was the first president that you could download off of Steam.
You're gonna see in 2020. When is he up for re-election? 2024.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like by 2023. You'll see on Kotaku. It'll say like time to revisit Joe Biden.
Yeah.
After several patches and some interesting expansion content, they finally figured out how to get Joe Biden to work.
Yeah. What's going to happen in the next election with the Democrats? Is Biden going to run again?
I'm going to be deep into the metaverse by then.
Yeah.
I'm going to be one of the people in the pods in the Matrix. And I'm going to have a sign, a sticky note on mine that says, please do not wake up or do not disturb.
Do not disturb.
No
occupants.
molestar.
a trilingual sign.
Yeah. It's going to have all Korean, Tagalog. It's going to have it all.
Oh, fuck. I love
no matter who finds me, do not wake me up. Or maybe do wake up. If we're in the Matrix right now, do wake me up. But not if it's worse outside the Matrix than it is.
Who's going to be the judge of that, though?
Oh, Morpheus.
Morpheus.
Yeah.
We're going to need to hire a quality control committee of volunteers who are awake.
Yeah.
And no one wants to be on that.
No.
We'll convince some former gifted kids to do that.
To
make
tell
them feel
us
important. They have to stay awake and they have to be the judges of whether or not the world outside is better than the world within.
I feel like the
there's no way
scenario
the world outside is
of Kamala Harris and Pete Buttigieg running together for the 2024 election is the result of former gifted kids.
It really is. Oh my God. We're living in
Actually, no, that's more like former theater kids.
The theater kids could be gifted
This
kids.
country is now being run by former theater kids.
Absolutely. Or it tried to be run. It's hard to say like how much influence they actually have, but they have jobs that like they're being paid, $500K a year to
consultancy classes.
Yeah, but it's still a question of God, I don't know. I think Trump's going to win in 2024.
I don't even want to think about that.
Yeah.
I don't want to
I haven't had this conversation with anyone in a long time. It's just that, this movie really like has me thinking about the state of America.
The most reductive way of thinking about why I do not want that to happen is just the discourse. I do not want to go back to when at a time when people who watch MSNBC every night thought that like punk and comedy was good again.
Fuck.
We can't go back to that.
No, we can't, dude. That was so dark.
We cannot. And I know there are people I know who still make jokes and talk about Trump like he's still president.
It's going to be like that for their whole lives. That he really was a paradigm shift for some people. I
can't handle that anymore. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to. I'll just continue playing video games and watching the NBA like
exactly.
I did the past 4
I'll live
years.
in the pod. We already came up with the solution. We'll live in the pod.
We're living in the pod. Where we had our pods during coronavirus. We're on a pod right now, and we're going to be living all pod everything.
Mm-hmm. Pod from the pod, the first remote podcast done within
the Matrix. People in the Matrix pods.
Yeah. Well, shall we?
Great. Yeah, let's do it. Oh, friend of the pod. We have friend of the pod. The tentacle robot.
Yeah, friend of the pod. The signal generating tentacle robot is in the studio with us today to talk about
Squid Game season 2.
Squid Game season 250.
Yeah. Now, what did you think of Mr. Beast's Squid Game season 2? Isn't it amazing he did it in 20 minutes?
Dial-up sounds.
Another guy in a pod's like, hey, I'm trying to get on the internet here. Get off the phone. Turn off the signal generating robot. Trying to go online.
Well, shall we?
Let's contemplate the pod.
Yeah. Who up contemplating the pod? Welcome back to Boys Bible Study. It's Christmas. It's Advent. Christmas is soon upon us. Jesus is coming. And all month, we are celebrating it. It's December on Boys Bible Study.
It ain't November anymore.
Nope.
Jesus is coming.
Yeah, Jesus is coming. That's true. That's why that's why we celebrate Advent. Not November sort of like prepares the way for this Advent season. And for our first free episode of the Christmas season, as is our tradition on the episodes where it's just you and I, Julian.
When the cat's away, the mice shall play.
Yeah, as we've said a couple times, but it remains true that Scott really does not care for the stuff that's just straight up conservative media.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously we can't help but dip into that just like by the nature of the topics we cover on the show.
Right.
But because it's just you and I, we dipped our toe once again into the wide world of conservative comedy.
We did with a little special episode that is celebrating July and Christmas.
That's right. You've heard of Christmas in July, but what about July in Christmas?
Because now this wasn't necessarily a Christian film.
Not quite, although not without those elements either.
Right. That is true. But it was structured in a parody of A Christmas Carol.
Yeah, but in this particular movie, the holiday that our Scrooge stand-in character was actually, sort of a humbug about was the 4th of July. So truly, this really just like flipped the script, like I've never seen something like this. It really was a July in Christmas special. Yeah, the movie that we're watching this week that we're going to talk about is An American Carol.
Yes.
I completely forgot this movie existed. Did you happen to see it at the time, or were you like aware of its of its like cultural reach at the time?
I think it was just something that things were going good. Obama was just elected.
Sure.
You know, we had free health care.
Right.
And this was like a time when these things, you know, you just see like perplexing new film from one of the creators of Airplane.
Right.
It was like a time where you'd be like, oh, that person's like a Republican now, or that person's like super conservative now, but you'd never like follow up on that.
Right.
It was like the beginning of that, like, oh, we're being bombarded with new things every 5 seconds. Now it's like every 5 seconds.
That's
you're
true.
Like, oh, this person's crazy now. This person's crazy now. This person's
That's
crazy
true.
now.
It was a bit more novel than but you reminded me of why I missed this entire news cycle, because since we had free healthcare at the time due to Obamacare, I was just like shooting myself in the face with nail guns and like, you know.
You were in front of the death panel every week.
I was, just for a thrill, because who cares? I could just go into the ER and get patched up for free that same day. So it was like, come on. At the time, for people who, you know, were more Democrat leaning, I think it really did feel like the Obama era was going to last forever. Like, granted, I was kind of young, but I still sort of felt at the time that like the culture that was happening then was just going to be the baseline, and that everything was just going to get like more liberal or more left or whatever you want to call it as time went on. That was just like, you know, a feeling that I had. And I think that a lot of people had, which obviously made, you know, the beginning of the Trump years like so shocking for many Democrat voters, because it really was just like completely blindsiding so many people, you know?
So many fake Americans.
Right.
You forgot about real America.
They sure did. And that's why this movie, I think, is like such an interesting cultural product, because like, so it's 2008. So this is Obama's second term, right? No, Obama's first term. Jesus Christ.
So I think this was a year into it too. This is, oh no, you're right. 2008.
Yeah. Okay. So this film was being made
right before he was elected. October 3rd, 2008.
Wow. So this movie then was made on the tail end of two terms of Bush.
This movie came out at a point when I believe Bush had like a 15% approval rating. It was pretty much unanimously agreed upon that the military actions in the Middle East were huge mistakes.
Yeah.
The American economy was completely in the tank.
Yeah.
So much so that, do you remember when John McCain was like, I'm going to be suspending my campaign because of the economic collapse, like the global economic collapse. And then like Obama didn't do it. And then the next day, John McCain was like, okay, I won't be suspending my campaign.
I don't remember that at all. That's so funny.
But yeah, that's what the state of America was. So, yeah, the Zucker brothers decided to, well, one of the Zucker brothers, famous for Airplane, the Naked Gun movies,
right,
decided that now was the time to reinvigorate conservatives in America with a fresh comedy, poking fun at America's greatest enemy, Michael Moore.
Yes.
When did Fahrenheit 9/11 come out? Because that is the big...
Yeah.
First, this is 4 years after Fahrenheit 9/11 came out.
Yeah. Fahrenheit 11 was then, that was halfway through Bush.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. I remember watching Oscars as a teen, and I believe it was Fahrenheit 9/11, and he gave his famous "Shame on you, Bush, shame on you" speech. And
or was that Bowling for Columbine?
God, I can't remember.
I think it was Bowling for Columbine.
Could be.
Because that was the one that like really made him famous.
That could be. I just remember him seeing him do the "Shame on you, Bush, shame on you" speech at the Oscars. And I remember my dad saying like, now's not a good time for him to be saying stuff like that.
It was, the 2003 Academy Awards. Because that's why it was so crazy, because it was right after the invasion of Iraq.
Yeah. And like just, still 2 years post 9/11, still like fresh wounds from 9/11, like fresh into the invasion of Iraq. And then, for him to be sort of, he was very offensive to many. It's just what I'm trying to do now is basically put myself in the 2004 through 8 mindset, which is like definitely a little tough as someone who was like a teenager during that time. But it's just, it's not that long ago. And it feels like fucking ancient history.
It's a time that was totally wiped from our memory by Obama and Trump.
And then Trump and then like the coronavirus pandemic. It's like, God, it feels like fucking 1950.
It's also really funny because it was like, it's really funny because now it's like, liberals are all like, Trump is brainwashed. Like the Trump supporters are all brainwashed. They'll believe anything.
Right.
It was like, that was a time when everyone in America was brainwashed.
Yeah.
I mean, not everybody, because it was still like, Bush had to steal the first election and then also stole the second election. So it was still pretty divided, but it was like general consensus, it seemed like, when Michael Moore like said, "Shame on you, Mr. President, resign now." That was like, those were a couple years where it was just like, you had to support America no matter what.
Yes, you did. Man, I just remember that era. I remember just seeing like just American flags on everything. And every personality, every celebrity, every personality, liberal or conservative, you really just had to be patriotic, like very openly patriotic. And it was a time of huge propaganda, probably unmatched until like coronavirus. And I'm using propaganda in just the most like neutral like sense of the term, but just like in a time where everyone had to come together and believe the same thing for the sake of advancing whatever, agenda forward. Right. Post 9/11 and then also COVID are probably the two most crazy times of that, that I remember.
I was talking to my friend earlier about how funny it is that like now out of all the times, it's like the big thing to like stop coronavirus is a marketing campaign that's like, let's all do this together.
Yeah.
Together, we're stronger. Like when has appealing to Americans like willingness to work together and look out for your neighbor ever worked?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just not in our vocabulary. I'm sorry. That's why we're the greatest country on earth. Like, well, more to say on that, but I think that, again, trying to just do the thought experiment to put ourselves in the 2008 mindset.
Yeah, we're visited by the ghost of Donald Rumsfeld.
And
visited by the ghosts of Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie. Coming to take us back.
Like the sisters of fate themselves, holding the world holding the universe by a thread, taking us back into a time that was almost completely forgotten. Into 2008, 2 terms of Bush, they had no idea the great threat that was to come in the form of the Obama administration.
Yeah,
but David Zucker, as you said, half of the famous Zucker brothers. Who, again, as you said, Airplane, The Naked Gun, all of the films from, before our time that still influenced our generation. I mean, everyone I know our age, like, grew up with the Airplane movies. Like that to me, I mean, certainly to me, I would assume to a lot of people we know who like comedy, like, that was one of the first things that like expanded my mind to like the vocabulary of like comedy and film. Like it's just like so incredible and so influential. So I guess the other thing is, there's the constant sort of idea that like all people in entertainment are left, all people in entertainment are Democrats. Mm-hmm. So was it really surprising that David Zucker came and did this? Like,
I think it was just, Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just weird, like, when people who are good at comedy, like, I'll say this movie was, if you took out all the political leanings, like, the jokes were funny.
There were so many funny jokes in this
was
movie.
like it very much followed like a solid formula for like a slapstick comedy.
Yes.
But like everything that was like plugged into the X's and Y's in that formula was like racist.
Right.
And like just like very conservative.
Right.
So yeah, that was unfortunate.
No, but yeah, there is something. I think I'm finally working this through. It's like, it is maybe just surprising to know that David Zucker is a conservative because, yeah, I don't typically associate conservatives as being good at comedy.
Right.
I would like to imagine that some could be, just because statistically it seems like some would, but based on the shit we've watched, that doesn't really seem to be the case.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. I like Gutfeld. I would not say is very funny.
No.
The World According to Billy Potwin, which we watched a couple months ago, I don't know if I would say that was very funny.
Nah. I don't think so either.
You said that the movie Free Lunch Express was like one of the more excruciating things you've ever seen.
Yeah, I couldn't get through it.
So
it
it's like,
says a lot.
Right. It's like they're just not sending their best.
Yeah.
And this might be their best.
Yeah, it's what's strange is like you see I saw all these movies that I thought were so funny, but they had no political leanings or anything. They were just parody movies. Very silly, like joke a second parody movies.
Absolutely.
And then so when they're finally like, tell us what you really think about the world, and it's like so drastically different from what you believe,
right,
or from what I believe. It's very startling to be like, oh, how did we agree on? We both thought that thing that person made was funny, but it turns out that you're like a complete idiot, and I disagree with you about everything you have to say about this country.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say maybe the beautiful thing about comedy, but yeah, this movie showed that once they fill in the gaps with ideology, it just like, it's just not funny.
Not funny. Like, it didn't make any sense either.
No, there were so many things that just like straight up like just didn't make sense. You know, right. I really, you know, again, I would say on the smarter end of film goers, I feel like I can follow even a more surreal plot.
Yeah.
There were several times where I was like, yeah, don't really understand like what this person is supposed to be, or where they're going or what they're doing. But still, probably the best conservative comedy I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Not that the bar is...
You're willing to have that quote on the Blu-ray release.
Sure.
Of this. The best conservative comedy I've ever seen.
I absolutely.
Yeah.
Unequivocally, to me, this is the best conservative comedy I've ever seen.
I agree.
Is the bar very high? No. But that's just the truth of it. Like,
yeah.
Especially the first like half hour of the movie, I was laughing. There was some shit that was great. Granted, it was like a lot of like visual gags that had just straight up been used in their other movies that were just like reappropriated with a different lining here. But still, it was like, it was funny.
Yeah.
The scene when like there's all the terrorists and he goes, hey, Muhammad, and they all like, everyone jumps up and goes like, like everyone responds, and it's a common name, you see. That made me laugh. I'm not gonna lie. Like it's funny. Like, you know,
it had very good like the language and like rhythm of the comedy was good,
because that's what he's the master of.
Yeah,
like that's what really the Zuckers are at the end of the day, is they're just like, they're masters of like rhythm.
Yeah,
like they really set the standard for how to do that type of comedy, and they have such a formula that it seems like it would be so easy to copy, but like people don't, and I wish they would. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like the Scary Movie franchise is like so beloved, and that was, you know, all their influence. So it's like, of course, this movie sharing the DNA with Scary Movie, like there's going to be really funny moments, but
yeah. Well, I think, didn't they did the third one? Right.
Third one.
But obviously the first two, even though they're Wayans brothers movies, are very, very much influenced by the Zucker brothers.
That's true. Yeah, even to the point that I almost forget that they didn't do the first two. But no, you're right. They did 3 and 4. 3, which I recently rewatched, and it's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
That movie's so good, in my opinion. So let's, maybe actually get into some of the plot of this film.
Yeah.
And try to work through it.
This movie was definitely written in 2004.
Yeah, you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it makes sense.
The more I think about what was real, Michael Moore was not a big part of the political discourse or whatever.
Right.
By the time it was the end of the Bush administration.
Right.
Because even at the beginning of this movie, they reference his movie Sicko, which is all about how bad the American healthcare system is. But yeah, this is a movie that is about a terrorist cell from the Middle East trying to hire Michael Malone, who is our stand-in for Michael Moore,
right,
to help carry out. I actually don't understand what they were planning to do.
Me neither,
trying to get him to make a movie to drum up support for their cause, but also to help hide the fact that they're going to do a terrorist bombing at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, well, the reason for their plot just becomes very circumstantial because, I think that their original idea is that they want to hire an American film director to make better propaganda for them.
Yeah.
But the film sets up this circumstance where Michael Moore is going to hold this anti-4th of July rally, which then just becomes, we'll just... and that's conflicting. That's a protest being done in front of a country music concert by Trace Adkins.
Yeah.
4 members of the military in Madison Square Garden. So they the terrorists just switch their plan and just decide, we're just going to bomb this.
Okay. Yeah. The stupid, the movie has to have a plot or whatever is that the terrorist attack thing. But the actual story is that Michael Malone is trying to cancel the 4th of July.
Yes.
He's trying to banish the 4th of July or abolish the 4th of July.
Right.
And so he's visited by 3 spirits from American history.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, the whole movie is being told as if it was famous actor Leslie Nielsen, Zucker brothers, constant leading man over the decades.
Their muse.
Absolutely. Their muse. He's telling the story of a man who hated the 4th of July to his, grandkids or, some younger kids at a family 4th of July function.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us a story? Yeah, great story.
Well, all right. How about the one that you kids always love, the story of Scrooge?
Scrooge, the guy who hated Christmas?
Well, sort of, but this Scrooge hated the 4th of July.
Why does he hate the 4th of July?
Well, the story begins high on a mountaintop, far away in Afghanistan.
And that becomes the narrative framing device.
There's a lot of layers.
There are really too many. Yeah. It's too complicated.
Yeah.
I mean, it made for some funny part. They did not need the whole Leslie Nielsen narrating thing. I mean, I get that they wanted to use Leslie Nielsen because why wouldn't you? But they didn't need to do all that. That whole part of the movie I found to be completely convoluted. It just just really didn't need it at all.
So this movie was made for $20 million.
Right.
Which back then was a decent amount of money for something like this.
Yeah.
I think. It made $7 million, so not a hit.
No.
And it's very much all of this celebrity casting and stuff, especially you got a Zucker brother with Leslie Nielsen again.
Mm-hmm.
You have Dennis Hopper in it. Spoiler: there's some crazy names in this movie.
The casting's amazing in this movie. I was cheering when
this
people
seemed
came
like the Koch brothers and Foster Freeze or whatever. Not the ice cream place. There's a billionaire guy who's also named Foster Freeze.
Really?
He's a big dark, conservative dark money guy, which I thought was crazy. That happens so much. There's a baseball player named Milton Bradley.
What the fuck?
Yeah. What's the likelihood
You know what I
that
think?
you would be named Milton Bradley and then become a professional baseball
That's
player,
so
or be named
wild.
Foster Freeze?
Well, you know what I think about all these like conservative dark money guys is like they would see the money better if they turned the lights on.
Yeah. Well, when you got that much money, all you got to do is just reach out.
That's true.
And
Yeah,
grab
you don't
it.
even need to have the lights on. You can just fucking.
Yeah. So I think this was like all the dark money people teamed up to be like, we're gonna make the hit conservative
We're
comedy.
finally gonna make the hit conservative comedy.
Yeah.
We
And
have all
like,
the ingredients.
Hollywood will be changed forever. They'll have to start making conservative media.
Right.
It's like astroturfing
That's
of an
probably
already
true.
extremely astroturfed business, which is just like Hollywood. There's
Right.
nothing that hasn't been like completely planned out. is
Absolutely.
happening.
That's the nature of it. But
Yeah.
the difference is a lot of stuff actually does like sell really well that they astroturf, and this still did not. You
No.
still can't like reanimate a dead body. Like it's still not like possible. But you're right. I mean, I think they felt like this is probably the one chance they had, right?
I think so.
I mean, it's not to say that there's not very popular conservative media, but it's just that like this particular genre of the feature film and the way that it permeates the cultural consciousness.
Yeah.
I don't know if they'll ever get another shot as good as this one.
This very much felt like, oh, we're appealing to the silent majority.
Right.
While like, conservatism is at like the lowest point it has been in a long time.
Right.
So we're going to like this is the time to strike, to prove that there's like lots of people in America who are conservative, want to laugh, and will energize the base that way.
Mm-hmm. I saw on Wikipedia that in some interview with the National Review Organization, like I don't know how many years after, but Zucker said that he was done with conservative comedy, and he mentioned that the type of people who watched this movie are the type who would wait for the DVD to come out. Which I don't know if that was cope or just like an honest assessment of like the demographic of the people who are watching this, which is probably, I'm going to guess, like older people.
Yeah.
It's a buy or rent the DVD. I mean, nowadays just, buy on Amazon Prime or whatever, but at the time, like
or watch free on Tubi.
Well, sure. Which is what we did. God bless. Tubi, owned by the Fox Corporation.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
so they're taking on Michael Moore.
Yeah, Michael Moore. You're right. This felt a little quaint even for the time. It felt like it was a couple of years back. Kind of like, it actually reminds me of how when we watched God's Not Dead 4, and that was about homeschooling in the year 2021.
Yeah.
It just kind of felt like they were throwing it back a little bit.
Yeah.
And I feel like even in 2008, you're right. It's like you couldn't have been talking about, Obama or like the new, like liberal, like hope and change shit or like
Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, sure.
Would have been, because that was like by far and away, like for the longest time, it was just like, oh, she's going to run for president.
Right.
She's going to win the ticket. And like, it was weird that it wasn't anything about that. Instead, it was just about Michael Moore and like, oh, documentarian who makes anti-American films.
Right.
It's just about like general like Hollywood liberal anti-Americanism,
Mm-hmm.
which is like the biggest problem with the humor in this movie, looking at it from our unfair advantage of being 13 years into the future when this movie was made. And probably about almost 20 years after it was originally conceived. Is that, we can just be like, they really bet on a lot of things that were like, that Michael Moore was right about that he said.
Right.
They like bet on those being like, oh, everybody's going to think this is ridiculous.
Yes.
But a lot of the stuff that he just says, and like every character, like, oh, the spirit of General Patton is like, I can't believe you would say such a stupid thing. And like, we're all supposed to laugh. Like when he's like, oh, the fucking CIA did 9/11 or whatever. What does he say?
God, I don't remember.
He says that 9/11 was caused by like the CIA's interference in other countries in the Middle East and like America's foreign policy and stuff.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the stuff that he says is just like agreed on by the right and the left.
Yeah. In the popular consensus.
Yeah.
Like that's very true. Yeah. And that's true. A big thing they hammered in this movie is that no, there was no way 9/11 was an inside job. There was no way. And, you know, when I say 9/11 is an inside job, like what I vaguely sort of mean by that is like more the spirit of it than like, I don't know. The
spirit of 9/11. We forgot the true meaning of 9/11.
He wants to cancel 9/11. Well, it's just that like, you know, for me, I don't know if like the US government literally like planted explosives in the World Trade Center, but like to me, there's no doubt that like all this sort of, like foreign meddling and like information, you know, like there was tons of like information that we knew about it like before it happened. Like there were clearly so many like things that had to have been conveniently ignored or like allowed to happen to get into that point. You know what I mean? It's just like, and I think that in a very, from all the way on the spectrum, from the people who literally think that like the US government bombed the towers to just like, oh, we really fucked it up in some capacity. Like anywhere in that spectrum of thought is like, I would say like pretty commonly accepted now. And you're right. The movie to really like bet the farm on that. And it looks really stupid looking back. It's like you guys really didn't call that one right.
It's also like coming at it from a perspective of just like the very, like that makes no sense at all. The conservative, whatever I don't like to hear is bad, and I should not. You should not say like you cannot. Like, there's a part in this movie where they talk about like the importance of free speech, and then later on, but they talk about like your rights and liberties as an American citizen and how important and how we have to like celebrate those and like protect those through the military fighting in the Middle East somehow. Right. Like it says that stuff, and then it also just constantly shits on people protesting.
Yes.
Which I thought was like a right to free speech and assemble.
Absolutely.
And then also there's a scene where there is just a mass shooting of ACLU lawyers.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
Which last I checked, like they defend, as our friend Jim, who was watching the movie with us, said, like, pretty sure they defend like KKK rallies and stuff.
Oh, they do that
like,
all the time, which is hilarious because like
the biggest defenders of the legality of free speech.
I've seen discourse where even like liberals and leftists like hate the ACLU, like because they do things like that. Like, and it's just like, it's so funny that they're the enemies in this movie. Yeah, like that. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there's a part toward the third act of the film when Kevin Farley as Michael Malone is he's meeting with the ghost of George Washington, played by John Voight. And I believe they have a conversation to the effect of George Washington basically saying, like, you have a platform, you should use it to say good things about America. Yeah. Like, it's like you're, as an American artist, like, he implies that like your sense of moral duty should lead you to say positive, uplifting things about America rather than tearing
it's so
it down.
funny.
I'm here to talk to you about freedom. The greatest gift man has.
Freedom.
Very precarious gift, easily misused. And when it is misused, easily lost. Like freedom of speech, which you abuse. Like freedom of religion.
That is really confusing, to say the least. Like,
and that's still a prominent conservative view, obviously. Like, well, Scott would have a lot to say about this if he was on here, but we were telling you about the basketball player Enes Kanter.
Oh, yeah.
Who, like, was getting a lot of, like, buzz because he kept talking about, like, the Uyghur genocide in China and, like, Nike and NBA money like all running through China and all this stuff, and like LeBron James refusing to say anything about how like blood money basically makes his sneakers.
Right.
And then he turns around and goes on Tucker Carlson and says that Americans should never say anything bad about America because as a new American citizen, he's from Turkey.
Sure.
You know, Americans take it for granted how they live in the greatest country in the world. So immediately conservative hero.
Right.
From the same, like, cut from the same cloth as John Voight, as George Washington, saying, like, if you're a famous American, you should only say good things about the country. Whereas, like, nobody is saying 9/11 was a good thing.
No.
People are saying that 9/11 was preventable because of the, you know, basically bad karma that America sows through its foreign policy.
And of course that the official government response to it was like completely misdirected, violent and overblown, and has nothing to do with the attacks itself.
Exactly.
Those things in this time period. Now the movie was released even 7 years after 9/11. It was still, you know, really didn't want to hear those things, and made a point to basically say that free speech does not extend to those people who would have those views.
Right. Just because they're not real Americans.
Right. Yeah. It's also just so weird to see how all that flipped now. And it's funny because it's not even really a matter of like who is president, because, you know, Bush was president technically at the time.
Yeah.
That this was being conceived of and written. So it's like, it's not that conservatives necessarily felt politically disenfranchised, but, you know, now, of course, that it's like Biden's president and there's like sort of liberal control over like the COVID protocols and everything like that. It's like, well, we need to use our, you know, free speech to, you know, talk about like the idiocy and like the, you know, the fact that it's like 1984 again and all that stuff. It's just like, I don't know how quickly the scene changes. That's all I can say.
You know what our problem is that in America, liberal means conservative and conservative means liberal.
I think I'm with you, but
in terms of stuff.
Okay.
But in terms of other stuff, liberal means conservative. And conservative means liberal.
I think I'm with you.
You know what I'm saying? We're all topsy-turvy.
That's true. It's all the fucking Hall of Mirrors, baby.
Yeah. Like you said, we have liberal control over coronavirus.
Right.
But really, we have very conservative policies they're trying to enact about coronavirus. You get what I'm saying?
No, totally. And it's how Democrats used to own slaves. Think about it.
Exactly. Basically, we got our pants on backwards as a country.
Right. We got our tricorn hats on backwards as a country.
Yeah. And it's never going to work out until we turn it around.
Yeah.
And get our stories straight, you know?
Well, you know, maybe that was what this movie was trying to do. I mean, so much to unpack here. So a big theme of this movie is basically that war is a necessary evil, and that being anti-war is fundamentally anti-American, which, God, even saying that makes me feel like I'm in the 2000s again.
Yes.
It's kind of amazing. Like my brain is like, you know, I feel like I'm having like a Molly flashback or something, or like an acid flashback or something. Like my brain is like, the neurons in my brain as I'm saying that are like rewiring to me being like 17 again. But
yeah, I feel like it's like coming out of the Matrix.
Yeah.
Because like for the past 4 or 5 years, people just kept saying like Trump is the worst president ever.
Yep.
And like, then you watch stuff from like this era or whatever, and it's like, God damn, the Bush administration was 10 million times worse than the Trump administration.
That's so fucking true, dude. Those were really how fucking dark times.
Gone we are as a country. Yeah. It's like people can't even realize that.
Dude, those times were dark as fuck. Like just straight up, just like watching like atrocities being like planned and executed, like very like, you know, orchestrated, like high level, like official, like atrocities, as opposed to just like sound and fury, like culture war, like online bullshit that like, you know, I mean, I'm speaking in the most general terms, but Trump didn't orchestrate the Iraq War. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
It's just like, man.
You know what was really scary was, not to keep going back to fucking Trump shit, but like in that sense was like when they like in like his first year when he ordered some bombing of like Syrian military stuff. And then all the like liberal news people were like, he's finally become president.
Oh, right.
I was like having fucking flashbacks to have like the invasion of Iraq.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just, you really have to just be like a hawk on both sides in this country. And hey, this movie was that way too. War is a very necessary evil. Michael Moore is portrayed pretty shallowly as, they basically compare him to like a hippie in the 1960s, like cliche. Like one of his beautiful female assistant has like a huge peace sign necklace that she wears. There's a musical number about going back to 1968 that like the weed smoking like Marxist college professors like sing.
The president's stupid, our soldiers are thugs, the government's dirty, our cops are on drugs, but we still like our co-eds with blonde hair and jugs, and America's to blame. Just like in 1968.
Are you kidding? A musical number?
Just a little entertainment.
Very funny to be like compared negatively to people who were protesting the Vietnam War, which was pretty much resoundingly agreed upon to be a huge failure and a mistake.
That was also so funny because there was the scene where like JFK is like, the ghost of JFK like walks through his television to confront Michael Moore, and Michael Moore says to him like, well, you wouldn't have supported the Vietnam War, and JFK is like, who told you I wouldn't have?
You wouldn't have gone into Vietnam.
Who told you that?
Oliver Stone. It was in his movie.
Oh, brother, did you ever read my inaugural address?
Of course. Ask not what the country can do for you. Ask what
Not that part. The part about going to war.
There was a war part?
Oh, brother.
That is really, you're trying to, like retcon the Vietnam War is like something we should have unequivocally supported.
Yeah.
Like really dark stuff.
It's very like, Hitler's like post-war World War I Germany, whereas like you people who were against the war back home are the reason that we lost.
Right.
Like we would be a perfect country if it weren't for all these people who were complaining about all the stuff we were doing.
Right.
Very scary stuff. The scene where they go to the college and have the like hair musical number was really funny because it was we were talking about how it was General Patton pointing out to General Patton, an authoritative military figure who very much depends on everyone below him being in lockstep and completely of one mind, is pointing out how colleges are brainwashing people.
Yeah, that is always really amazing.
Yeah.
Like,
always written by somebody who is decades and decades removed from attending a college class.
Yes. That, and I mean that's always something that is really funny when people start to point out like liberal cultural indoctrination, which I think there's something there to some extent. However, this movie literally foiled that with, as you said, with militarism. The scene at the end where it's all people wearing the same uniform, like proudly enjoying like a Trace Adkins concert. It's just like, so-called free thinkers when there's a Trace Adkins concert, just like that was really remarkable, and just like plain as day in front of you, the fact that you're favorably comparing the military as a place where like freedom of expression is more possible. You know?
And that's like the conservative voice in this film is like supposedly the voice of reason. Like they don't ever really make any jokes. The only jokes that are made on behalf of like conservatives are that every member of the armed services thinks that the like a different branch is the one filled with gay people.
I thought that was really funny.
That was pretty funny.
Part,
the presentation was funny.
Mm-hmm.
And that they will like, if you're liberal, they'll fuck your girlfriend when you're gone. That's basically it. Just very alpha.
Yeah. You know, one of the pitfalls of conservative comedy, and I think, you know, conservatives, I think, do have some trouble sort of making fun of themselves. You know, it's not that liberals can certainly fall guilty to being not self-aware and stuff, but
especially nowadays.
That's the thing, especially nowadays. But, you know, there is a tradition of self-deprecating comedy among, I don't even want to say the left, but just among like mainstream comedy in general.
Yeah.
And it just, I think it's because conservative comedy, since they see themselves as victims, in, you know, are constantly like sinking in the quicksand of culture. It's like they don't feel like they can afford to self-deprecate. Yeah, a whole like running thing in this movie is that like army guys are hot and people want to fuck them.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, a couple gay jokes that were kind of funny, I thought, were pretty much the most self-deprecation possible in this movie. Yeah. What you just said, the scene in the bathroom where the two terrorists are having a suggestive conversation in the stall that people overhear, other branches of the armed service overhear, and they say, well, that must be the Marines in there, those must be the Navy in there. The other part, which I thought was kind of funny, was when you know, the Michael Moore character first meets Trace Adkins, the country singer, who at this point is playing like an angel of death type figure. And he sees him, he looks up and sees just like a big burly cowboy. And he says like, oh, like I've always supported gay rights or whatever. And Trace Adkins is like, no, I'm the angel of death or whatever. Like it was a joke about how, you know, a burly cowboy is also like a gay sex symbol type of archetype, you know.
That's pretty funny.
It was funny.
I missed that joke.
It was really quick, obviously, as most of the humor was in this movie. But
there was also the joke about Lincoln not being gay, which was really funny.
Lincoln is revered now for fighting that war.
Hey, you would know. Those rumors about Lincoln being gay?
Why don't I just shoot you now?
Well, maybe just at a wide stance. Ooh, hang on, I gotta take this.
Well, it's funny because was that even that much of a joke? Because
I don't know what.
After he says that, General Patton pulls out his gun and is like, I should just shoot you right now.
Yeah, I thought that was funny because they just spent, it was right after the very horrible part of this movie where if everyone was anti-war, the Civil War wouldn't have happened. So they go to an alternative timeline where Michael Moore owned slaves because slavery still existed. Despite the fact that all other developed countries in the world were somehow able to get rid of slavery without a war several decades before the United States did. Somehow we weren't able to figure that one out without war.
Much to unpack. Let's look at that one next.
And then we would just always think that slavery is good had we not had a war. Where literally half the country thought slavery was good. That was the part that was very, very confusing. The train of logic there.
One of the most confusing things in the whole movie. I feel like were you like wrapping up a previous point though before you got into the slavery thing?
Oh yeah. So they point out, this is like all a long thing to point out like how Lincoln was such a good leader because he knew that America had to save itself from itself.
Okay.
By going to war with itself. So, you know,
that sounds pretty gay to me, honestly.
Who are you to say that, you know, brother against is brother on brother?
Stepbrother on stepbrother.
So yeah, he was like, who are you to say that like this great man was like made a mistake in going to war?
Right.
And then like Michael Moore character, all he can say is like, is it true that he was gay?
Yeah.
And like Patton is so angered by the thought of this man being gay that he wants to shoot Michael Moore, as if like the funny part is like it's still like if this guy is gay, then everything he did is corrupted by that fact, despite the fact that I just spent like 10 minutes explaining to you why he's like the greatest president ever.
Yeah, that's so. It was interesting. It was like both a joke and a non-joke at the same time. It felt like they were maybe touching into the self-deprecation space, but I felt that the way that General Patton responds just with a threat of violence just sort of like negated it. It just
was,
like,
it kind of also felt like, oh, this guy just totally missed the point of what I was saying. So I'm so frustrated. I'm going to kill him.
You know what? That was probably the joke, but I couldn't help but also read it as like a tacit, like, don't you dare call Lincoln gay. Like, but besides, he was married, and married men can't be gay.
Exactly.
As we know.
Ask Stedman.
Right.
Is he gay? Is he Oprah's husband?
Stedman?
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, Oprah's husband. Yeah, that was a running joke at least. I've got to say, I haven't thought about that.
That's a blast.
Dude, we're in 2000s mind, dude.
Yeah.
We're in 2000 zone right now. Like, let's just like roll with it.
Yeah. I'm just repeating jokes that I heard on television when I was a kid.
Absolutely. No,
I'm
regressing. I'm regressing too.
I don't even know who
I can feel
Stedman
it
is.
happening. I'm definitely like regressing right now. But so as we hinted at, one of the most confusing scenes in this entire movie and one of the most uncomfortable scenes is a scene where General Patton shows Michael Moore. He says, "Oh, you don't like wars? Well, explain this." And it switches to a point in reality where slavery is the law of the land and everyone owns slaves. Every like upper class or whatever person owns slaves. And the reason that is because we weren't pussies and we actually fought a civil war, and we can all agree that it was good that the North won the Civil War.
Yeah.
And we see this elaborate fantasy where Michael Moore owns slaves. The head slave is played by famous comedian and actor David Allen Greer.
Yeah.
Gary Coleman makes a cameo as a slave. You know, there are some funny parts, but of course it's also very uncomfortable.
Extremely uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable. And hey, isn't that what good art is supposed to do?
Yeah.
Make us think. But there was just a lot. I think the craziest thing to me was like, you're telling me that, okay, I certainly don't think that all conservatives, all modern day Republicans, I think that basically everybody agrees that like the legacy of slavery in America was pretty horrible. But you're telling me that the people who like want to keep flying like the Confederate flag and like all these things, like you think we can all agree that it was good that the North won the Civil War?
Yeah, it's very.
I don't.
This gets so confusing for me when conservatives talk about slavery because like they refuse. There's like this refusal to admit that it was as bad as it was, or that America even did it, or that had any impact on America.
Right.
But America was also good for attacking the evil conjoined twin of America. Like I don't understand. Like it doesn't make any sense. There was like there was a different America that like came in like an evil twin that like kidnapped the real America and had slaves, and then but like the good America, their brother knew that it was the fake one.
However, we as an ideology are descendants of the bad brother, and we're proud of that.
Yes.
And that's like that's a good thing. That's like unfairly demonized, but we're still happy that we were defeated.
Yeah. We are the greatest. We are such a great country. We were able to stop ourselves we saw we were doing something wrong and we were able to stop ourselves, and people just need to just move on from it. Okay. That seems to be the lesson.
Yeah.
We should be proud that we should be proud that we were addicted to having slaves and we were able to snap out of it.
Me making a tweet like, just want to say I'm 150 years clean of owning slaves.
Going to like Al-Anon for owning slaves.
Yeah. I mean, it does sort of feel like
it's crazy. I'm not trying to make light of owning slaves.
No, I think that goes without saying.
I will go on the record to say that I do not like slavery.
I think as a podcast we can agree on that.
The rhetoric around like defending America in its like history of owning slaves is so confusing.
It's very confusing. I agree with you.
That's why the CRT thing is going on, because it's just the easiest way of being like, it should be illegal to talk about this because we can't figure out how to say it was like good. It's too complicated.
Yeah, that's true. Like, I think it is tough for people to say, I'm proud to be an American and this is the greatest country on earth, and also confront its like very ugly present and history. I mean, that's really what this movie is all about, right? Like, this movie is like trying to do that. Like, it's trying to say like, we're still proud, we still celebrate, we love Independence Day, we love America. Yeah, we can look past all that stuff, right? God, this is a tough one, because I don't know. I do this a lot in my own personal life. So I love the 4th of July. Okay. And I've talked about this on the show many times. I love the 4th of July. I love America personally. I'm a very patriotic person. I think America is an amazing country. I love living here. I haven't lived or, been to many other places, but I do feel like my heart and my spirit is like very uniquely American, and I'm proud of it. I do feel like, I guess what I'm trying to say is I think it's actually pretty easy to love America and still think that it's like a deeply corrupt and like ugly place with like so much to be ashamed of. Like, I feel like if I could do that, like, why can't these people,
It's a lot of work. I mean, people think it's a lot of work.
Right.
I think that's the big thing.
Yeah.
Like most things in life, you don't want to do something that you have to think more than like 5 seconds about.
Right. I think that's it, actually. Yeah. I think it was actually a pretty easy answer.
Pretty dumb, yeah.
I think that was a pretty easy answer, actually.
But I will say I'm pretty dumb and I can still figure it out.
Yeah, sure.
Like, it's not that hard.
Right.
Like, this is a movie where it opens with basically saying like, oh, Michael Moore went to Cuba where the healthcare system is horrible, and he's like praising it.
Mm-hmm.
And then he tries to get on a boat to go back to America, and everybody hates the healthcare system so much and living in Cuba that they all try to hop on the boat with him. And then later on in the movie, or they're basically saying like, the American healthcare system is great. Why are you complaining about it?
Right.
And then later on in the movie, there's a scene where Michael Malone's nephew, was that his nephew? Who's joining the military? Yeah.
Yeah.
His nephew in the military is the caretaker for like 9 kids with various like debilitating illnesses, and they're all waiting for his rich filmmaker uncle to give them money to pay for their treatments before he ships off to go fight a war for America.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a movie where the thinking about the government's role in your life is that it's not the government's job to keep you alive. It's the government's job to send you to another country to die.
Absolutely.
So I don't know why it's
crazy.
Like so hard to reconcile. Like, hey, you shouldn't like. What is the point of the government?
Yeah.
Ready for dessert?
Daddy, is your asshole uncle coming tonight?
Now, Timmy, you know Uncle Michael loves you.
That lard ass only loves himself. Did he come up with the money for my operation?
Documentaries don't actually pay enough to,
Daddy!
Becca! Hi, sweetheart.
I see that, Michael. I'm gonna get you a cornea transplant. Malone stiffed you again.
Honey, He's doing everything he can.
I think it should be to, make its citizens happy and healthy.
Yeah, to take care of its citizens that it values so
arbitrarily
much.
pick. Well, they don't arbitrarily do it, but to pick a country to invade and you go die there.
Yeah, seriously, man. I've got to say, that was one of the craziest hypocrisies of this movie, were just the little things it said about healthcare. I honestly couldn't believe the scene when, it was obviously played for laughs, but it was all the kids being like, when is Michael going to pay my doctor bills? He doesn't even care about us. We're just it was just weird.
To a guy who's serving in the military for the country.
Yeah.
Shouldn't that get you free health care?
Okay. Yeah. It's I'm just going to,
It does. And it's a very bad system, apparently. But it does
the
get you
VA
health care. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's what was so crazy. It was just it was this private filmmaker's responsibility to pay for the care of, all these kids that were in the custody of a man whose job is to serve the government directly and even go as far as to die for the American government.
Yeah.
Man, what the fuck? It's just what if you're from a family where you don't have a rich filmmaker uncle?
Right.
What are you supposed to do then? If all these kids are waiting for their rich filmmaker uncle to foot the bill, but they're joking oh, he's so he doesn't even care about us. He's so dysfunctional. These liberals, they're so dysfunctional. They don't even care about their families. They won't even front hundreds of thousands of dollars for their doctor bills.
He's too busy criticizing the way that America does its healthcare to pay for our healthcare out of his pocket.
It's just when I say this, I'm not trying to mean it like in a cold libertarian way, but why is it his responsibility? Why is it any private person's responsibility to pay for their health care? Jesus.
It's dumb.
So dumb.
It's a dumb system, and it's dumb that these guys who wrote this movie couldn't figure it out.
I know.
They're too busy saying that slavery would exist if there was no war.
God, which is of all the arguments that you could possibly come up with, that was your fucking nail in the coffin? Come on, man. Jesus. I mean,
yeah, you can't just be maybe America shouldn't have had, maybe no country should have had slaves to begin with.
Yeah, and maybe maybe we should have healthcare. Maybe we shouldn't have slaves, and maybe we should have healthcare, but I still have fun being an American. I think I can safely say that sentence.
Yeah.
And
we'll see once this episode comes out.
Yeah, well, I mean, come on. I'm one of the most dangerous podcasters. I mean, so many other little details in this movie. Honestly, gentle listeners, I would say check this one out on Tubi. It's, I don't know if you're going to enjoy it. You're going to enjoy it more than you think you're going to enjoy it. But it is obviously very racist and uncomfortable at times. So, but some other moments I loved. One of my favorite character actors, Robert Davi, plays a Muslim terrorist. He's doing a fake Middle Eastern accent. A bit racist there, but I love Robert Davi. Every time I see him in a movie, I soy face at the screen. I just love to see him. We had Kelsey Grammer in this movie. Country Grammar. As General George Patton. This whole time we've been talking about him, I think we neglected to mention that it's fucking Kelsey Grammer. Of course, country singer Trace Adkins is featured as himself, ending the movie by playing a pro-American, celebratory song for all of the members of the armed forces who are there to watch his concert.
This is the greatest country in the whole wide world. The fastest horses, the prettiest girls. We got the Army, the Navy, Air Force, and Marines. The finest fighting force the world's ever seen. We're the kind of people that get things done. No doubt about it, folks, we're still number one. We got the nerve, we got the will. We are all together, and you know that we are still America.
And some amazing cameos, including Paris Hilton and Simon Rex, whom I love. Simon Rex, a.k.a. the comedy white rapper Dirt Nasty, who many of our listeners, if you don't know the name, if you don't know him by name, you would recognize him as the star of Scary Movie 3 opposite Anna Faris, among some other comedy roles he's had over the years. I think maybe the last point that, I wanted to make, although, obviously if you have something else too, we can keep going. But like, I thought one of the other like finally kind of amazing hypocrisies about this movie was how much, and this was such a fun time capsule, was how much this movie was like pro-Patriot Act and like surveillance in the name of the war on terror.
Yes.
And it's just so funny watching this now in the time of COVID, when the government has become more authoritarian, but it's now a different side saying we should trust the government's authoritarianism because it's for a greater good. Again, I'm not trying to assign value judgments to these words like authoritarian. I'm just trying to say like there's more rules now, and the liberals want more rules because the liberal government is making them.
Yeah.
Whereas during this time, during the war on terror, which earlier I compared to COVID, it was a Republican government saying we need more rules because we need more security theater. We need more of this because there's a war on terror.
Well, yeah, that was easy back then because they weren't pro like security apparatus. They were pro racial profiling.
Right.
Because it was very much like back then the problem was, it's a brown person. I'm not a brown person. So this is
That's
good.
very true.
But now it's like coronavirus. I couldn't possibly have coronavirus.
That's so true.
I couldn't be the bad person who has coronavirus. And if I did, it's not a bad problem. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't need these things.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about it that way. But
because like every time they're like, "See, you idiot, you don't want the Patriot Act." It's like the big one is like 2 terrorists who look Middle Eastern walking into the subway system with a backpack.
yeah, and then a guy literally comes out with a bazooka and blows them up, and that's like
It's
a
actually
joke.
pretty
but
funny looking the
it
way
was
they
really
exploded.
funny. It was funny, but some classic Zucker shit. But still,
yeah, the thing they weren't pro Patriot Act. They were just pro kill all people who don't look like me.
which was kind of explored in a little more detail when, and to maybe tie it to the theme of this podcast, but like in the scene where they imagine there's basically a gag, but it's not really a gag, where it's like, what if it was radical Christians instead of radical Muslims who were the terrorists? Obviously this movie, like many of its time, including Bill Maher's Religulous, which we reviewed a couple months ago, just equates Islam with terrorism. Islam is a religion of terror. It's a religion of death. This movie makes that point explicitly. But there's a thought exercise in this film, like some young person says like, well, you talk about like radical Islam as a threat. Well, what about the way that radical Christianity is a threat to people? And the film basically is like, you don't see Christians like bombing airplanes. And then there's this really cool scene where 2 like priests like take out like a sword that's shaped like a cross and like invade a cockpit in an airplane. And then a nun who blows herself up on a bus. And it was just funny because it was basically saying to your point about like the Patriot Act is good because it stops anyone with a beard or a turban or a veil or a headscarf in an airport. Because again, if the Christians were the terrorists, then that means you would have to stop white people in an airport, and that's not the case. So we're good,
Wow, you know what I just found out?
What?
Is that this movie and Religulous came out within 2 days of each other.
No.
And
oh my God, this was such a powerful week.
Both like, this is the conservative comedy, Religulous is the liberal comedy, but they both hate Muslims so much.
Yes, but here's the thing.
That's what we were unified behind back then.
But didn't Religulous come out? What was the Christian movie that came out that same week? Wasn't it Fireproof?
Oh, yeah.
Because I remember when we were talking about Religulous, we were like,
this is a good week for our pod.
Holy shit, we can like trace the entire origins of our podcast.
Fireproof came out a week before Religulous.
What the fuck,
so
man?
These 2 weeks, this is like what Lennon said when he was on the roof with the rest of the Beatles. He said they're There are weeks. Wait, there are years where weeks happen, and there are weeks where years happen, love.
And there's 8
now
days.
Help us down. Get us off the roof.
And there's 8 days a week where 8 years happen. I found an article from ScreenRant.com from 2008 that says, Fireproof earns twice as much as Religulous. Now, we already litigated this on our Religulous episode earlier this year, but like...
And we all hail the almighty dollar.
Absolutely, baby.
The true guy.
I like to stay with the fucking winning team, bitch. Yeah. Fuck off, Bill Maher.
I love when, Christian movies are like, when people are like, oh, look at the success of... See, you can make a Christian movie and make money. Like, isn't that the most sacrilegious thing?
Yeah,
or like when Christians like point out how financially successful.
Yeah, well, I mean that's a whole other conversation. Yeah. But I mean, just Christianity has merged so much with American capitalism that like prosperity shit isn't even like I think.
Oh right, I forgot. There's whole branches of Christianity where making money is godly.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's just like. In our time right now, like I do believe that materialism has like just completely won the spiritual war. I mean, basically like, and now especially just as shit becomes like more drastic. I mean, I just personally, I want my friends to sell out any fucking way they can. If that means you're working for, one of the evilest corporations or whatever, like as long as you're fucking making your money and you can pay your rent and not die when you go to the hospital.
Shout out to my boss.
Shout outs.
Most evil corporation.
Shout out to Jack Conte, who runs Patreon. He's in the most evil band in the world, Pomplamoose. And I'm not afraid to say it, even if it means our podcast is severely deplatformed. Pomplamoose sucks ass, man. Your music sucks. You don't know about Pomplamoose?
No.
Oh, they're just like, it's a Jack Conte, who's the CEO of Patreon, and his wife. Unfortunately, I don't remember her name. They were in this like YouTube cover band called Pomplamoose, where they would fucking like play glockenspiels and do like covers of like pop songs that were like cute indie like shit. Yeah, that guy fucking made Patreon. All like 3% of our earnings or whatever, or I don't even fucking know. More than that, I'm sure. 30% go to fucking Jack Conte. That miserable.
This is different than Queen Herbie.
Yeah, that's another scary power couple. Era? Yes. Okay. So Carmen. Okay. So Queen Herbie was formerly in the band Carmen.
Yeah.
They were a married couple making cloying indie pop covers that were YouTube oriented. Probably around the same fucking time as these movies we're talking about.
Yeah. Oh, and God, this is where the simulation broke.
I know. And then Jack Conte started Patreon, which is platforming this podcast, and Queen Herbie started her new project, Queen Herbie, which is the best music possibly ever made by a human being. And so she provides a source of inspiration.
No, I can't. We also said there were funny parts about the slavery part of this movie.
God, yeah, this is a dark episode.
Pomplamoose.
Yeah, man.
2008.
So yeah, I support all my. In conclusion, I think everyone should sell out, and for me, that means giving some of my hard-earned money to the band Pomplamoose. What do you think? Anything else you wanted to mention about An American Carol? I will say, just to tie it back to our show. Sorry, I was like inviting you to talk, and then I was like, no, wait, I want to say one more thing.
Yeah, go for it.
Just to tie it back to our show, the scripture that this does invoke is Psalm 144.
Have mercy upon me, O God, according to thy unfailing love. Praise be to the Lord my rock, who trains my hands for war, my fingers for taking fire.
It invokes it as a pro-military Bible verse. Psalm 144 verse 1 says, "Praise be to the Lord my rock, who trains my hands for war, my fingers for battle. He is my loving God and my fortress, my strongholds and my deliverer," etc. That's verses 1 and 2. So that scripture is invoked. We do get some Christianity culture war stuff, especially in comparison to Islam. Not the most Christian movie we've ever watched, but for me, a very interesting foray into conservative comedy. what do you think? Any other like final points or thoughts you had you wanted to bring up that we didn't get to yet?
I really like the part where the guy, the terrorist, blew up at the beginning. He blew up the car. Mm-hmm. And then they were like, look, we blew up a car. And the guy was like, that was my car, you idiots.
That was pretty funny.
And I also liked the just all the dummies flying through the air and the getting stepped on and
amazing
stuff. That was very funny.
That's to what we were saying at the beginning.
Visually, it's a pretty funny movie.
It really is. That's to what we were saying at the beginning. The skeleton of an amazing physical comedy was throughout this whole thing, and there were so many things that just caused you to laugh that you could completely just laugh regardless of the like very racist or fucked up in whatever capacity like ideology that was being promoted. Like, yeah, I don't know. I found myself being very uncomfortable by the depictions of like suicide bombers, but when you get one of those classic Zucker explosions of someone exploding, it's exploding, it's just funny.
The like Goofus and Gallant instructional video.
Yeah.
Was really funny.
They did a running gag where it was like a terrorist training video, and instead of Goofus and Gallant, it was like Ahmad and Aman.
Yeah.
And it was like Ahmad like shows up to his target on time, and like, but Aman is running late, and it's like, you know, a guy exploding because he keeps fucking up like his like terrorist attack. And the explosions were just so funny. Like
the way they did explosions in this movie looked really funny.
It looked great. It looked, and that was what. It just goes to show you like that. I've actually been wondering this whole time we are doing this podcast, how do you make a good conservative comedy?
Yeah.
And the answer, I think, is make the physical comedy so undeniable that you can completely just laugh at it despite the ideology.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they didn't even manage to do that because they kept tripping over themselves by having like kids like literally turn to the camera and be like, Michael Moore is an asshole.
Yeah.
And like
this movie's so
the shit at the end,
man.
when it's so stupid. It lost the fucking plot. And like at the end when they're in the stadium listening to Trace Adkins and all the like ghosts of like dead soldiers from wars of the past are all like standing up and looking like stoically like past the camera. It's like, shut the fuck up, dude, man.
You know, every time I'm like worried, are they actually going to pull it off? Are they going to make like a comedy that I won't realize that it's like a conservative thing? It just fails miserably. It's so fucking dumb. And it was racist and stupid. And like, also, who the fuck was it for? I mean, I get that it's for like people who are conservative, but it's like, don't you think it should like maybe appeal a little bit to like, try and bring in some other people instead of just being like, oh, look, Michael Moore said the CIA, Michael Moore said like invading Iraq was bad. What an idiot.
Right.
Like maybe point out something else in his like like in liberal ideology that's like not the stuff that turned out to be completely right.
Right. I mean, it's all for media people by media people. And this happens with liberal shit all the time too.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like so much media is like all the people who have strong opinions about media are like, they think they're like running the culture, and they, in a way they are, because those people aspire to media and then get those jobs and then do those things. But like, they think they're fucking telling like a cultural truth. And then it's like, oh no, this is just all like in-group signaling from media class people to other media class people. And like, this is no exception, even though it's like on the conservative side. According to Wikipedia, you know, it was promoted heavily by various personalities such as Rush Limbaugh, you know, who made an appearance in this film, Hannity, Glenn Beck.
All famous comedy-minded people.
Right. But it also said, blah, blah, blah. A quote from the Dallas Morning News says, a quote from the American Conservative reported, the movie has been promoted by bloggers on National Review Online, the Leadership Institute, an activist group that maintains contact.
Institute,
I know.
Where I go for all my film.
An activist group that maintains contact with college Republicans nationwide urged its charges to see the movie on opening weekend, even handing out tickets to its interns.
Oh, God.
So literally, like, they were just fucking giving like tickets to any kid who was vaguely involved in like Republican organizing
to get the word out.
Yeah. So again, it's for people who like think about this shit.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're really, you're fucking like everyday person, you can just turn on TV and watch 2.5 Men or The Big Bang Theory like anyone else. Like those things aren't conservative. They're just populist, like popular entertainment. Like you can make that. You can just watch Boss Baby with everyone else, like or whatever the fuck people like. I don't even know, man.
Which is, it's like funny because like all mainstream media is conservative.
Yes,
you just don't
all
realize
this Marvel
it.
shit.
It's all conservative.
It's so conservative.
So you don't need a movie that's like, oh, anybody who says war is bad is an idiot. Because like, how you gonna appeal? Like the way to trick people into being conservative is make Marvel movies.
Yeah.
Like don't go around being like you're not gonna trick people who think war is bad to like war by being like, look at these soldiers who died for it. You're just gonna be like, yeah, they shouldn't have fucking died for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a bad idea to go to war. All those people would be alive right now if we could all fucking just realize that war is evil.
Yeah.
And it's not saying like, oh, I hate America going to war, so I want other countries to invade us or like kill other people. No country should be going to war.
Yeah.
Or hurting other people.
It'd be nice if no one had to die or get hurt in general.
Yeah. At the hands of these, at anyone's hands but mine.
There was that part in the movie where they depict that one fucking, whoever the English prime minister was during,
Neville Chamberlain.
Yeah, Neville Chamberlain. I don't even know. And it was just like him, like literally shining Hitler's shoes. So he was like, but hey, if we do this, we don't have to go to war. We can have peace. The implication, of course, being that if we don't fight the war, other people are going to be fighting it and they're going to win.
Yeah.
We choose peace. That means everyone else is going to choose war. So we have to just lead by choosing war. So
yeah, it's a very like, I don't know, like not isolating in like an isolationist meaning, but like an isolating view, like very like tribalistic, and that like we are America, we're on our own planet, and all these other like I don't know what the fuck is going on in all these other countries, but the second that we drop our guard, they're all going to come kill us.
Absolutely.
Instead of being like, we're all part of one race.
It's playground bully.
The human
shit.
race.
Well, having my doubts about the human race.
Yeah. I would say we're losing. I'm just kidding. I'm rooting for humanity.
Me too.
I would like to not die or live in a hell world.
Yeah, sure.
I don't want anybody else to live in a hell world.
I can think of a couple people I want to live in a hell world.
Yeah, right. What do you say we rank the movie?
I would love to. Yeah.
Rate the movie.
An American Carol, an unlikely Christmas movie, a July in Christmas movie.
We didn't even talk about the Sorbo appearance.
That's true. Okay, let's end with that.
Yeah.
We got a fucking I was once again I got off the couch and soy-faced at the TV, pointing at the TV, because our boy Kevin Sorbo showed up in a cameo role.
He did.
Incredible that there was so much going on in this movie that it was just like an afterthought to us. But he was great.
Yeah, what did he win? He won Best Director for a movie about how McCarthy is bad. How McCarthyism was bad.
Yeah, which is also funny because like it wasn't a documentary. It was like a feature. So the whole joke in that was that Michael Moore wins an Oscar for documentary, but no one cares about documentaries anyway. They don't even show that part on TV, which is fundamentally not true because like, Michael Moore got on stage at the Oscars and said, "Shame on you, Bush, shame on you," which was in 2002 for Bowling for Columbine. By the way, I fact checked that while we were talking, and you were right. It was for Bowling for Columbine in 2002. But
another, I hate to admit it, but another thing that Michael Moore was right about.
Yeah.
School shootings are bad. And we're not going away anytime soon.
That's for fucking sure. But like, yeah, so Kevin Sorbo then plays like a star film director who actually wins like a real Oscar after the cameras are turned back on. But yeah, it was for some movie about like McCarthyism, but like I couldn't tell what the fuck was going on.
Yeah. So I think the idea behind it was that this was like more of the racist stuff where it was like, oh, liberal Hollywood directors will bend over backwards to criticize Nazis and like McCarthyism, things that are not a threat to America anymore, or will like criticize America for stuff that it doesn't do anymore, like McCarthyism.
Sure.
Before they make fun of Islamic terrorists.
I dedicate this award to all the courageous filmmakers who take on tough issues like McCarthyism, even though it no longer exists, or like slavery or Nazism, even though they ended too. But, you know, evil exists today. Oh, yeah, like Islamic terrorism. But, like, I'm going to make that movie, right? Like, I want to get beheaded.
And I will say it was a pretty funny performance by Sorbo.
Sorbo's great.
He was very funny the way he was talking about, like, oh, I wouldn't make fun of them, they'll kill me.
Oh yeah,
that
scene,
delivery is pretty funny.
Yeah, it was really funny. Yeah, I was. Yeah, I don't want to repeat it, but it was funny. But you'll just have to see for yourself, gentle listener. If you think you can stomach it, you'll find something to enjoy in this film. I think you'll be surprised by how much you enjoy it, even though I have a feeling like if you watch the show, you'll agree with us that fundamentally it was fucking stupid and racist.
You will I guarantee you will laugh once.
Yeah. At least.
I also wouldn't be surprised if you're very mad at us for putting even the slightest amount of praise on this movie.
Sure. No, of course.
But that's fair. That's fair.
Of course, that's fair. And I mean, you know, it's like, yeah, it goes without saying, like it comes, you know, within this. We look at things through our specific framework. You know, we're doing intra scene analysis. I'm not comparing this movie to, you know, the whole history of filmmaking.
Right,
I'm comparing it to this particular scene and genre of like only the last like 2 decades of American filmmaking, and even then a marginal portion of that. But, you know, again, best conservative comedy I've personally ever seen.
Probably ever.
This is their last chance.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll get another one, at least in mainstream Hollywood.
It's going to be on like the fucking Daily Caller is going to have a like feature length comedy.
Yeah, totally. And it's going to get 20,000 views on YouTube.
Yeah. It's going to be like called My Trans Family. And it's going to have like Steven Crowder.
He's going to play all the roles like Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, but he's going to be like the conservative, like father type who's like, I can't believe my entire family transition.
No. If it's Steven Crowder, he's going to be the person who transitioned because he's obsessed with dressing like a woman and pretending to be trans.
Yeah.
No, if Steven Crowder's in it, he will be playing he will be dressing as a woman and pretending to be trans. That's exactly. So that's why I'm thinking he'll be like an Eddie Murphy type in that hypothetical movie.
Good call.
But what do you think of An American Carol? What's your rating of this film, Julian?
I thought it was a big pile of shit.
Mm-hmm.
Still chuckled a couple times. They got me. What can I say? You know how to hit my funny bone. I'll give it 5 out of 5 big gulps because that's what he was drinking when he fell asleep and had the dream about Kennedy. A lot of weird amount of Purple Rose of Cairo references too.
Yeah, interesting.
Which I didn't really get, but there were 2 that I noticed, but still very strange. They must have just watched that movie when they made this.
Could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually the way you
also, weird movie to reference considering it was made by a literal Hollywood pedophile, Woody Allen. So strange person to give like winks and nods to in your movie about how evil Hollywood is.
You know, the way you put it about this movie, like striking your funny bone, I think was actually like really accurate for this. Because I was going to say like the way this movie made me laugh was the equivalent of like when a doctor hits your knee with a little thing and your body jolts. It really is just like the Zuckers just know how to elicit like a primal like timing gag from you. And it doesn't matter if like the context of that, like what that is. This whole movie was an exercise in that because however, I will say the first half hour of the movie before I was completely worn out by all the political. By the end of the movie, I was no longer laughing because I was fucking worn out from all the dumb shit. But still, this movie was absolutely perfect in every way. I loved it. Best movie I've ever seen. Ending Ideology. I'm gonna have to give it I'm gonna have to give it 6 hot dogs and 8 hot dog buns out of 6 and 8 because I'm trying to plan my 4th of July barbecue, and how come I have to buy? I don't get it. If there's why if they sell the hot dogs in packs of 6, why do they sell the buns in packs of 8? It doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I don't eat hot dogs.
Right.
I make them.
Okay.
I don't know what that means, but
okay. Why don't you eat them? Because you don't celebrate the.
I just don't think they taste very good.
Sure. Because you hate America.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, those don't go hand in hand. I would also not like America if I like hot dogs.
Sure.
Yeah. Maybe I just shouldn't be trying to think when I'm laughing, you know?
I think that's how I feel nowadays too.
I should just never think.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Or feel.
Every day we work closer to our goal.
I'm just going to sit at home playing with myself and laughing at the TV. It's the only way to live.
It's the only way to live.
Yeah.
That's what the Buddhists called
That's
Nirvana.
gonna be me, but in reality, I'm in a pod.
Yeah,
filled with my own cum.
Yeah, I just want to fucking
like touched by a squid robot.
And just getting constantly jacked off by a squid robot.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people don't know that the fluid in the Matrix pod is just pure cum. It's just built up over years and years. God, that would be the fucking
JOI
life, man.
video.
Anyways,
yeah.
Speaking of people who hate America, thank you so much to everyone who listens to today's episode. If you're just joining us, we hope you go to boysbiblestudy.com. There's links to subscribe to any of the podcast locations where you can listen. And we'd love it if you hit subscribe and stay with us. Also, shout outs to everyone who's been listening from the beginning and our extra special listeners who are patrons. If you want to unlock bonus episodes, go to patreon.com/boysbiblestudy, where we put out episodes. We do free episodes every other week. On the other weeks, we do bonus episodes. So you can unlock weekly content if you subscribe for $5 a month or more. Also, shout outs to our very special patrons on the $20 tier. We've got Nicole, Marissa, Jeff, Jane, and Kara. Thank you so much. Those are our patron saints, and they get a shout out at the end of every episode. Thank you so much. Our outro music is Oh My God by Mary. Check out Mary's music on Bandcamp and Spotify. From all of us here at Boys Bible Study, myself, Ash, my co-host, Julian, our co-host, Scott, we would like to say, peace be with you.
And also with you.
I was hoping you were going to do Kennedy.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I feel your love in me, it's coming from within. Oh my God, my devotion is so unwavering. Divine emotions when you enter me.